Do you know that feeling when you finish a show that you adore and it comes to a close and you have that empty feeling, that pit in your stomach, that feeling of kind of being at a loss, a little sad, a little like you lost a friend in some sense? Well, Mob Psycho 100% Season 3 showed me that there's another feeling to that, but different. Not sorrow or emptiness or sadness or saying goodbye to a dear friend and feeling the emptiness in that. Instead, content, harmony, relaxation, ultimately feeling like these characters that you've grown to love are gonna be okay. They're gonna be better than okay. Mob Psycho, I believe at its core, is a story of growth, and yes, we see that all the time with anime, but not quite like Mob. Mob goes from being a kid who was overwhelmingly juiced with psychic powers, hiding away his emotions for a traumatic event that happened when he was younger. And with that suppression comes an overwhelming power with them. The more you suppress, the more stronger you get. Well, our journey starts when Mob is being swindled in some ways by his quote-unquote master, this guy named Reagan, who is a con artist that kind of is manipulating Mob to work in his advantage. But very quickly, very quickly within the show, you realize that Reagan's actually more complicated than you think. He's not just some sort of swindler. Mob isn't just some sort of dead-end kid. He's got a lot of layers, but can't show damn near any of them. The world is goofy looking, but man, are some of the fights the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And behind all of this lies a beautiful story about human connection, human growth, and human heart, I guess, is the only way I can phrase it. If you can stay true and watch this series all the way to its end, I think you'll have enjoyed your time so much so that it won't feel like a sad goodbye, but instead a head nod. I know you're going to be okay, and I can't wait to see what you do next. But I know I can't. But I believe that you'll still kill it. Goodbye. It's such a wonderful ending. But there is one thing with the show. It takes a little bit to see. It's hard to describe, but when I first watched the show, I didn't really enjoy it that much. I thought it was a fun power fantasy of a quiet kid popping off. Neat. But it wasn't until I watched an anime video from a channel that I adore, hopefully I'm putting it on screen right now, called Mob Psycho is Better Than One Piece. A little provocative, but anyone who has seen season 1 to season 2 and oh my god season 3, I think you get it. This show and its way it develops characters. Now, first of all, it's not better per se, but it's complete and it's completely different. But I think if you were to say which one is better, it's probably Mob. But until I watched that video, I never was able to really understand how unique season 1 really is, and I wasn't able to appreciate Mob's journey. You see, this show I think is best enjoyed if you're able to actually take solace and take note of all the crazy things happening with Mob and how he's handling things. A quick hint is that season 1 is about Mob's push to improve and to largely change, and for there to be characters that expect the world to change around them or change to come to them, whereas in season 1, Mob seeks change. He seeks to become better. He wants to become different. He wants to change. He doesn't want to be defined by one characteristic that he has. And he does, especially at the end. And season 2 is a mess of so many wonderful emotions. Mob growing, Mob realizing that you are not defined so completely by who you are, but also your environment. And how if someone tortures you enough, they can pull out the worst of you. You can let the worst of you take flare. We're getting a little too caught in the weeds. Season 2 is also breathtaking, but season 3 is a goddamn masterpiece. Season 3 is the beautiful climax of so many fantastic characters. Oh my god, the dimple scene is so beautiful. And also, we get to see Mob kind of be not so good. Mob is usually the one who's emotionally on point, which is hilarious because he's emotionally detached. At least that's what people assume from him. But the dimple scene shows that Mob got a little too big for his britches. Got a little too egotistical a little bit. And the fallout and the harmony and oh man, the dimple scene will go down as one of the best ways to do a villain, a redemption arc, and ultimately a genuine human friendship The fact that Mob accepts Dimple and his flaws. The fact that Mob refuses to give in. The fact that Mob also completely sets himself up for failure, betting wholeheartedly on the good that he knows lies within Dimple. And then the subliminal nature to Dimple of always having Mob's back and the whole shebang. I can't describe how that moment made me grin ear to ear. If you know it, you know it. And lastly, the absolute cataclysm of Season 3 and how it concluded. One of the things that was always missing from Mob's story is his ability to accept himself, for him to allow emotions into his life. This is something that's been there for a long time, and only until the show started to mention it did I realize, oh, this isn't necessarily a quirk. This is a forced behavior that Mob has kind of found himself in. The fact that the whole series concept is actually incredibly dark and messed up. The fact that a kid can't express himself because he's terrified of harming other people. He's so kind and caring that he suppresses every aspect of himself, destroying the social connections he has with people, stifling his growth, and ultimately destroying pieces of himself. And that's something I think is a beautiful lesson, and that's what you get from Season 3. Season 1 is about, hey, you can improve yourself, you can change your life, you can change. You don't have to be a servant or a slave to the things that you hate about yourself or that the environment gives you. Season 2 is an acknowledgement of, hey, sometimes the environment can be so bad it's almost impossible to breathe. But that doesn't mean you give up. That means that people around you are in the way, and how you become who you are is so indicative of what you should be grateful for, and how you should care for the people that made you who you were, made you better, made you kind, stuck up for you, cared about you. This is also a reason why what can make you good. Yes, if your environment is determinative of what you are, then guess what? Be thankful for the environment that you were given, that you weren't born a fucking total sociopath, or you were just destroyed mentally. Be thankful. And a whole slew more in Season 2 with power and meaning. Anyways, Season 3 though is that counter to Season 1, which is, I want to improve, I want to change, I need to change. But what happens when you've tried and you've tried and you've tried and you have changed, but there are these pieces that are left over that you can't even grab? They're built into the bedrock of who you are. What do you do then? Do you just hate yourself? Do you destroy yourself? Do you suffocate yourself entirely? Or is the only way to move and shape those pieces to accept them and to actually understand that those are you? This is also a beautiful analogy for so many things that people deal with. You know, if you are an introvert, that can be something really hard to move past, and especially when you're not acknowledging the fact that, yeah, maybe I don't get energized by people, but goddamn do I love people. Therefore, because I love people, I don't want to admit that I don't get energy from being around them, so I suppress that. There's also an easier example of, if you happen to be attracted to a certain sex or whatever, that can also be something that if you don't acknowledge that piece of yourself, you'll always be a slave to this piece that you never actually see. The fucked up thing is you can't actually change that piece. You can try as you might, but it won't. So the only thing left to do is to accept it and to move forward with your best foot forward with it. For instance, Reagan. There's so many examples of so many characters in this series that aren't perfect. Dimple is not perfect. Reagan is absolutely not perfect. Ritsu, his brother, is not perfect. Everybody is not perfect. And the only person who doesn't accept that imperfection within themselves and become fully formed is Mob. Until the ending. Everybody else accepts that they're not perfect, they're not crazy, not special, and that's fine. And you do your best that you can with those pieces that you're given. You don't deny them, you don't hide them, you don't destroy them. You change what you can and you accept what's ever left. And that is beautiful. And this show is just that package delivered to you beautifully. Again, the way it ends, you feel like you understand these characters, and it's not a goodbye. You're just grateful that you got to experience this journey. And you're even happier because these characters will just keep going. And because we've seen them been through so much, we know they're going to be okay. So it's just this feeling of like you're waving goodbye. You're not sad, you're not overwhelmingly happy because you got to see them all 20 years later, and Mob has a wife and he's loving on his wife and it's sweet, he has a kid, he's a good dad. None of that. We don't need any of that. We know it's going to be fine. We know that Mob's going to be able to handle whatever comes next. We know that Reagan's going to be fine. We know that everyone is going to be okay. And it just makes you feel so happy and like you're just waving goodbye. And I feel like Mob won't get the credit that it deserves. Mob Psycho won't get the credit it deserves because it doesn't have that ending. It doesn't make you feel somber. It doesn't make you feel overwhelming like this is the happiest thing ever. It does something so much more skillful, in my opinion. It pieces you together, gives you a great story, puts you back together, and says, hey, aren't you happy we went on this journey? Bye. And then it just walks away. And it'll dissolve into the background probably. It's just this goofy, fun anime. But for some of us, I think you know as well, this is a goddamn masterpiece. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for letting me ramble. Love you to bits. Hopefully I can talk to you about anime again. I will continue to do so until you hit unsubscribe. Thank you kindly, and goodbye, my friends.